The reviews are in for Moon Knight, which is set to premiere on Disney Plus March 30th, 2022. But will the series meet the expectation of MCU fans? I'm Eddie, and this is your Nerd Collision News Update. And before we get started with our topic today, please remember to like and subscribe. And also remember to click the bell button so you get notifications when we have new content on the channel. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started into our main topic today. And that topic is, will Moon Knight live up to fan expectations? Now, just a note, it's standard for television reviewers to receive 1 to 3 episodes of a new series. However, Disney and Marvel decided to provide the first 4 of the 6 episodes for the Moon Knight series. Here are some of what the critics are saying so far. And our first story comes to us from CNN.com titled, Moon Knight Starts Well Enough, but Interest Wanes with Each New Phase by Brian Lowry. Now, according to this article, it states that the show borrows from a variety of genres without picking a lane of its own identity, hard to decipher, and not clear on what exactly the newest MCU hero can do in terms of powers and abilities. Here we have a quote from the article that states, the final episodes might deliver, but Moon Knight increasingly looks all dressed up with no place to go. Let's hope it's just going through a phase. Pretty interesting take there. Now, our second story comes to us from the New York Times, and the story is Moon Knight Review Raiders of the Lost Identity by Mike Hale. While this article seemed to give the first 4 episodes a pretty fair review, one quote actually did stick out to me in relation to a criticism that Moon Knight director Mohammed Diab had regarding how Egyptian culture is depicted in film, using Wonder Woman 84 as a reference, as a recent example. And here we have a quote from the article that reads, there are a lot of issues swimming around in Moon Knight, including its treatment of ancient Egyptian culture, its presentation of its Middle Eastern milieu, and its depiction of its heroes' mental health issues. Now we have another quote here that also stuck out to me from the article when discussing the director's intention of presenting Egypt and working with Egyptology consultants while filming. We don't know what the consultant's input was, but on screen, presenting Cairo in a new light in interviews, Diab said this was a priority, seems to consist of making it look like every other world capital. A scene featuring Gaspard Ulliel, who died in January, uses what appears to be an Arab form of jousting as background exoticism. When the characters venture into ancient monuments and archaeological sites, the dangers they face are of a familiar silver screen variety. Now, our next story actually comes to us from Variety.com. That story is Oscar Isaac's Moon Knight is a refreshing change of course from Marvel by Daniel Daddario. Now, this review seems to be the most positive for the series that I found, noting Marvel's attempt to break a new character through the medium of television, and praising the freshness of this attempt that may even entice those outside of the MCU fandom. And here we have a quote from the article that reads, Moon Knight drags a bit towards its middle. Its 4th episode, the final one made available to critics, had some baggy moments ahead of a closing sequence that provides a much needed kickstart. And the show may yet wrap up with a bow or use its final installment to explain how these characters really have a role to play in the next Spider Man film. But there's a high steeping riskiness to its first 4 episodes that is a good look for a studio that's often more careful than it's wild, exploring other facets of the universe while trusting audience members not to wonder how it all connects has enabled Marvel to make a series that is that is finding its way towards a genuinely compelling portrait of dissociation, anchored by 2 terrific performances. The fact that it can be watched on its own terms is icing on the cake. Now, what are my thoughts on this so far? I only have a few, as usual. The main criticisms that I've heard while doing research for this update are more about the overall story, which isn't surprising since the showrunner, Jeremy Slater, and the stars of the show, Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke, have stated that they want to make the series more of an isolated story, while also borrowing some ideas from the original source material and changing others. While some of the reviews may note that the story seems to jump around a bit, there was an overall praise of what the actors, Isaac and Hawke, brought to the screen, as well as May Callumway, who will be portraying Layla in the series. Even with the concerns of the storyline, I still believe that this will be a good series. The fact that this will be completely different from what we've seen from the Marvel Disney Plus series so far, it feels like we're going to be on an interesting ride with Moon Knight. Now, if you would like to read any Moon Knight books to get a feel on what to expect in this upcoming series, I've heard from a few people that Moon Knight by Jeff Lemire is a good place to start. I have actually read the Lunatic book by Jeff Lemire. That was the very first book that I got out of the Moon Knight series, and that's what made me fall in love with the characters. So I highly, highly recommend that book if you get a chance to read it. But other than that, I would like to know what are your thoughts on this series? What do you think about these reviews, or have you heard any other reviews from any other critics that you may feel like may help this series, or may dissuade you from watching it at all? Let us know down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember, once again, to like and subscribe. Click the bell button for notifications for whenever we have new content on our channel. Please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And also, please share with your friends. We'd love to have more of you watching. And once again, I'm Eddie, and this is your Nerd Collision News Update. We'll see you guys soon.